Hey everybody, welcome to Everyday English Pod. We're going to be diving into some really interesting stuff today about how the business world is changing and what that means for jobs, what the future of work might actually look like.
Yeah, there's just so much happening right now with technology and how companies are working, how they're thinking about things.
We've got a lot of information here,
Yeah.
reports, articles, interviews, all sorts of stuff that really give you the sense that things are changing fast. We're talking about artificial intelligence, automation. I mean, those two alone are huge.
Absolutely, and they're just the tip of the iceberg. We're going to be looking at the shift to remote work, the explosion of data analytics, and the constant need for cybersecurity.
And then on top of all that, we've got some really cool emerging technologies that are starting to pop up, things that could totally reshape industries.
It's fascinating stuff. Really makes you think about what the world's going to be like in a few years.
Exactly. So today we're going to try to make sense of it all. Pick out the most important trends, the stuff that's really going to matter.
Hopefully we can give you a better understanding of how to navigate this quickly changing world.
Okay, let's start with AI and automation, because it feels like every company out there is suddenly trying to use AI to grow their business and be more efficient.
Yeah, there's no question that AI is becoming central to how companies operate.
I mean, it's one thing to use AI for, like, simple tasks, but we're talking about AI being used for strategy, for making big decisions.
Exactly. And these emerging technologies aren't just making things a little faster or a little cheaper. They're completely changing how businesses work, letting them adapt to the market in ways we've never seen before.
One of the things that really blew my mind was reading about how companies are now using machine learning to predict customer behavior. Like, they can actually forecast what people are going to buy with crazy accuracy.
It really is amazing. Imagine being able to see what's coming down the road, anticipating trends before they even happen. That's the kind of power that machine learning is giving to companies.
It's a huge advantage in today's world. You're not just reacting to changes anymore, you're ahead of the curve.
This is leading to something called data-driven decision-making, where instead of relying on intuition or gut feelings, leaders can base their choices on solid data.
It makes so much sense. You're reducing risk, you're allocating your resources better, and that's what leads to higher profits in the long run.
It's like having a map instead of wandering around in the dark. You know where you want to go, and you have a much better chance of getting there.
Okay, so AI is helping companies make better decisions, but what about the people actually doing the work? I mean, how does all this automation affect employees?
Yeah, a lot of people are worried about robots taking their jobs.
Is that really what's happening, though? I mean, I've also seen stuff about how humans and machines are going to work together. It's not necessarily a replacement, right?
That's a key point.
Yeah.
We're seeing a shift towards what's called human-machine collaboration, where companies are recognizing that the most effective approach is to combine the strengths of both humans and AI.
So people would focus on the things that machines aren't good at. Creativity, problem solving, complex communication.
Exactly. Humans bring empathy, judgment, intuition, all those things that are still really hard to program into a machine.
And the machines can handle the repetitive tasks, the data crunching, all that stuff that doesn't require human creativity.
Companies are realizing they need to invest in training their employees to work alongside these advanced systems. They call it upskilling, giving people the knowledge and skills to manage and interact with AI effectively.
And I've seen a lot of companies putting resources into reskilling programs, basically helping people learn new skills so they can move into different roles as automation changes the job market.
That's a really positive development. It shows that companies are starting to understand that investing in their employees is crucial for staying competitive.
It's not just about the technology, it's about making sure people are prepared for the future of work.
And part of that is becoming comfortable with digital tools, being able to collaborate online, which is essential with the rise of remote work.
Yeah, it's hard to avoid talking about remote work these days. So many companies are going fully remote, or at least offering hybrid options.
Digital platforms have been a game changer, making it possible to work from anywhere and still be connected to your team, your clients, everyone.
Video conferencing, file sharing, project management tools. It's amazing how much you can do without ever setting foot in an office.
It's opened up a lot of opportunities for people who might not have been able to work traditional jobs for various reasons, giving them more flexibility and control over their schedules.
And from a company's perspective, it can save a lot of money on office space, utilities, all those overhead costs.
And studies have shown that remote workers are often more productive and happier. They have more control over their environment, and they don't have to deal with the stress of commuting.
It sounds like a win-win situation. But there have to be some downsides, right? I mean, working remotely, it can get pretty isolating.
Yeah, that's a big challenge for remote teams.
Hmm.
You don't have those spontaneous interactions, those water cooler conversations that can help build relationships and spark new ideas.
It's also harder to maintain a company culture, that sense of belonging, when everybody's scattered around the world.
Managers need to be really proactive about creating opportunities for remote teams to connect, to socialize, and to feel like they're part of something bigger.
I've seen companies doing virtual coffee breaks, online game nights, even just having dedicated channels for non-work related chat.
All those little things can make a big difference. And the technology itself is getting better at supporting remote collaboration, making it easier to work together on projects, track progress, and share information.
Yeah, I've seen some really impressive platforms that basically act like virtual offices with everything integrated into one place.
Some companies are even taking it a step further, experimenting with virtual reality platforms for remote meetings and brainstorming sessions.
VR, wow, that's getting pretty futuristic.
It is. Imagine being able to put on a headset and suddenly feel like you're in a room with your colleagues, even though they're miles away.
You could have interactive whiteboards, 3D models, really make those brainstorming sessions more dynamic and engaging.
It's still early days, but it's exciting to see how these technologies are evolving.
I imagine there are some hurdles, though. The technology itself is probably expensive and not everyone's comfortable with VR.
Absolutely. There are technical challenges, cost considerations, and, of course, the need to train people on how to use these tools effectively.
And just like with anything else, security has to be a top concern when you're talking about VR and remote work.
Definitely. Companies need to make sure that those virtual spaces are protected, that sensitive information is encrypted, and that they're taking all the necessary precautions to prevent data breaches.
It's interesting how even augmented reality, AR, is playing a role in remote work.
AR is all about blending the physical and digital worlds. Imagine a technician wearing AR glasses that overlay instructions right on top of the equipment they're repairing.
That's cool. A remote expert could guide them through the process, even if they're thousands of miles away.
Exactly. It has huge potential in industries like manufacturing, healthcare, any field where you need experts to be able to see what's happening in real time.
It really feels like the future of work is going to be global, with people from all over the world collaborating on projects thanks to these advanced technologies.
Building strong relationships, communicating clearly, and having the right technology in place, those are going to be the keys to success in a globally connected world.
Okay, so we've talked about AI, remote work, but what about automation and its effect on the workforce itself? People are worried about losing their jobs to robots.
That's a real concern. But automation isn't just about replacing jobs. It's about changing the nature of work. It's about freeing up people from those repetitive, time-consuming tasks that can easily be done by machines.
So things like data entry, processing invoices, all those tasks that don't require a lot of creativity or critical thinking, those could be automated.
Exactly. And a specific kind of automation called robotic process automation, or RPA, is really good at handling these types of structured tasks. This lets people focus on more interesting, more strategic work.
Work that requires those uniquely human skills like problem solving, critical thinking, creativity.
The kind of work that makes people feel engaged and fulfilled.
I've also read that with all this new technology, companies are now getting real-time insights into how their business is doing.
Data analytics is a huge part of this. Integrated systems can track key metrics, generate reports, and give managers a clear understanding of what's working and what needs to be improved.
It's like having a constant stream of feedback so you can make adjustments on the fly.
And it's not just about reacting to problems, it's about anticipating them.
I read about companies using predictive analytics to forecast demand, to optimize their supply chains, even to prevent equipment breakdowns.
But it's important to remember that automation isn't always the answer. Companies need to carefully evaluate which processes are actually suitable for automation.
I guess automating the wrong things could actually hurt your business.
Absolutely. You don't want to alienate your customers by making everything too impersonal or taking away that human touch.
It's about finding the right balance. Like using chatbots to handle simple customer inquiries can be great, but you still need human agents to deal with those more complex issues that require empathy and judgment.
That's a good example. Yeah, and it's not just happening in offices. Automation is transforming industries like manufacturing.
Yeah, with robots and automated systems becoming more and more common on factory floors.
We're seeing robots doing everything from welding to painting to assembling intricate electronic components. This is leading to faster production times, more consistent quality, and ultimately lower costs.
But doesn't that mean fewer jobs for people?
It's a real concern.
Yeah.
But the hope is that as machines take over those more routine tasks, people will be able to move into higher skilled roles.
So instead of operating the machines, they'd be managing them, maintaining them, or even designing and improving them.
Exactly. The idea is to create a more skilled workforce that's focused on innovation and problem solving. But there are ethical considerations here too, especially when we're talking about AI making decisions that affect people's lives.
Like in hiring, promotions, even things like loan approvals, how do you make sure AI isn't biased, that it's making fair decisions?
Transparency is crucial. Companies need to be open about how their algorithms work, and they need to have ways to audit those algorithms to make sure they're not perpetuating existing biases.
And it's not just up to individual companies, right? There needs to be oversight from regulators and policymakers to make sure AI is being used responsibly.
Absolutely. This technology is evolving quickly, and we need to make sure there are clear rules and guidelines in place.
It's a complex issue, but it's one we can't ignore. We have to be thoughtful about how we integrate automation into the workplace.
And we need to make sure we're doing it in a way that benefits everyone, not just a select few.
And it's not just about ethics. Sustainability is becoming more and more important too. How does that connect with automation?
Well, companies are starting to think about how they can use automation to reduce waste, to optimize energy consumption, and to generally make their operations more environmentally friendly.
It's not just about being efficient, it's about being responsible too.
And consumers are increasingly demanding that companies take these issues seriously.
Okay, let's shift gears and talk about the power of data analytics. It seems like every decision being made in business these days is based on data.
Data is everywhere, and it's only becoming more abundant. The key is being able to extract meaning from that data to turn it into actionable insights.
And it's not just about crunching numbers anymore. Companies are analyzing all sorts of data, including social media posts, customer reviews, even sensor data from their products.
We're talking about massive data sets, what they call big data. And to make sense of it all, companies are using sophisticated analytics platforms and machine learning algorithms.
I read about dashboards that give executives a real-time view of how their business is doing, with key performance indicators tracked across all departments.
It's about having your finger on the pulse of the organization. You can see where things are going well, where there are problems, and you can make adjustments quickly based on that data.
It's not just about reacting to what's already happened, it's about being able to predict what's going to happen next.
Predictive analytics is a powerful tool. Imagine being able to forecast customer demand, optimize your inventory, or even predict when a piece of equipment is likely to fail.
It's like having a crystal ball.
Yeah.
But you need to have the right data, and it needs to be organized and managed effectively.
That's where data governance comes in. Having clear rules about who has access to data, how it's stored, how it's used, is essential for protecting privacy and ensuring the integrity of the data itself.
And it's not enough just to have the data and the tools. You need people who understand how to use them.
Companies need to invest in data literacy training for their employees, teaching them how to interpret data, how to ask the right questions, and how to use data to make better decisions.
I've also heard the term data democratization thrown around. What does that mean?
It's about making data accessible to everyone in the organization, not just a select few. The idea is that when more people have access to data, they can come up with innovative solutions and make better decisions.
It sounds like it could empower employees and lead to a more agile, responsive organization.
Exactly. But it's also important to have clear guidelines and accountability mechanisms in place. You don't want data just floating around without any control.
And business intelligence platforms are playing a big role in all of this.
These platforms are like the command centers for data analytics. They pull in data from all sorts of sources, process it, and present it in a way that's easy for people to understand.
So you can see trends, patterns, relationships, all those things that might not be obvious just by looking at raw data.
And you can use that information to make better strategic decisions, to identify new opportunities, and to stay ahead of the competition.
Ultimately, it's about using data to drive your business forward.
And companies that are really good at doing this are the ones that are going to thrive in the future.
Okay, let's talk about how workplaces are changing, both physically and culturally.
We're seeing a lot of changes in office design, with more flexible layouts, open spaces for collaboration, and quiet areas for focused work. Companies are recognizing that employees have different work styles and need different types of spaces to be productive.
And it's not just about the physical space. It's about the culture, the values, the way people interact with each other.
Younger generations entering the workforce have different expectations. They're looking for more than just a paycheck. They want to feel like their work has meaning, that they're part of something bigger.
They want to be challenged. They want to learn. They want to grow.
Companies are responding by offering more flexible work arrangements, more opportunities for professional development, and a greater emphasis on work-life balance.
They're also trying to create a more inclusive and diverse workplace, recognizing that different perspectives lead to better solutions.
Companies are realizing that they need to be more proactive about attracting and retaining top talent, especially in a competitive job market.
And with so many people working remotely, building a strong company culture is more challenging than ever.
That's why communication, transparency, and a focus on shared values are so important.
I've also seen companies using technology to create a sense of community, even when people are geographically dispersed.
Online platforms for sharing information, social events, even just regular check-ins can help maintain those connections.
And it's not just about making employees happy, it's about creating a more productive and innovative workforce.
When people feel valued, when they're engaged in their work, they do their best work.
Now let's dive into a topic that's becoming increasingly important in the modern workplace: mental health and well-being.
It's something that wasn't talked about much in the past, but now there's a growing recognition that employee well-being is essential for both individual and organizational success.
Companies are realizing that stressed out, burnt out employees aren't productive employees.
They're starting to offer things like mental health days, mindfulness programs, access to counseling services.
And it's not just about providing resources, it's about creating a culture where people feel comfortable talking about these issues.
Managers need to be trained to recognize the signs of stress and burnout, and they need to be able to have open and honest conversations with their employees about mental health.
With so many people working remotely, it can be even harder to maintain a healthy work-life balance.
That's why it's important to set clear boundaries, to encourage people to take breaks, to disconnect from work when they're not on the clock.
I've seen companies implementing policies like no meeting days or even blocking off certain hours of the day where employees aren't expected to be available.
It's about creating a culture of respect and recognizing that people have lives outside of work.
And technology can actually play a role in promoting well-being, too.
Yeah, there are apps that help people track their sleep, their activity levels, their mood.
And there are tools that remind people to take breaks, to get up and move around, to do things that help them relax and recharge.
The key is to use these tools in a way that's supportive, not intrusive. It's about empowering employees to take control of their own well-being, not monitoring them.
It's a delicate balance. But it's clear that companies that prioritize mental health are going to have an advantage in attracting and retaining top talent.
People want to work for companies that care about their well-being, companies that see them as whole people, not just cogs in a machine.
Okay, let's explore some of the really cutting-edge technologies that are starting to make waves in the business world, starting with blockchain.
Blockchain is one of those technologies that has the potential to completely transform how we do business. It's already being used for things like cryptocurrency, but its applications go far beyond that.
Yeah, I've heard people talking about how it can revolutionize supply chains, make financial transactions more secure, even change how we verify our identities.
At its core, blockchain is a decentralized, secure way to store and track information. Imagine a digital ledger that's distributed across a network of computers, so no single entity controls it.
So it's incredibly secure and transparent. You can't just hack into a central server and change the data.
And it's incredibly efficient. You can track the movement of goods through a supply chain, verify the authenticity of products, even track the origin of food.
It sounds like it could really increase trust and transparency in a lot of different industries.
Exactly. And one of the most exciting applications of blockchain is smart contracts.
Okay, what are those?
Basically, it's code that automatically executes an agreement when certain conditions are met. So imagine a contract that automatically releases a payment when a shipment is delivered, or a loan that automatically adjusts its interest rate based on market conditions.
Wow, that's incredible. It could really streamline a lot of processes and reduce the need for intermediaries.
It has the potential to make transactions faster, cheaper, and more secure.
I've also heard about something called tokenization, where blockchain is used to represent ownership of assets.
Yeah, you can tokenize anything from real estate to artwork to Intellectual property. It allows you to divide ownership into smaller units, making it easier for people to invest in things they might not otherwise be able to afford.
But there are still a lot of unknowns, right? I mean, blockchain is a relatively new technology, and regulators are still trying to figure out how to deal with it.
Absolutely. There are concerns about security, about volatility, about how to prevent fraud.
It's important to approach it with caution, but also with a sense of excitement. It really does feel like blockchain could change the world.
And it's not just small startups experimenting with it. Large companies are also starting to explore blockchain solutions for their businesses.
It's definitely something to keep an eye on. Now let's talk about another technology that's even more mind-bending: quantum computing.
Quantum computing is still in its early stages, but it has the potential to revolutionize many industries, from medicine to materials, science to finance.
Okay, try to explain this to me in a way that my brain can actually comprehend. What makes it so different from traditional computers?
Well, traditional computers use bits, which can be either a 0 or a 1.
Right.
Quantum computers use qubits, which can be a 0, a 1, or both at the same time. This is called superposition.
Okay, that's already hurting my brain a little bit.
I know, it's weird. And qubits can also be linked together in a way that allows them to influence each other, even if they're physically separated. This is called entanglement.
I'm definitely going to need to read up on this more later.
But basically, these quantum properties allow quantum computers to perform calculations in ways that are simply impossible for traditional computers.
So it's not just about being faster or more powerful, it's about being able to solve problems that are currently unsolvable.
Exactly. Quantum computers could lead to breakthroughs in drug discovery, materials design, optimization problems, all sorts of things that could have a huge impact on our lives.
I read about quantum encryption, which sounds like it could make our data virtually unhackable.
Yeah, that's one of the most exciting possibilities. Quantum encryption uses the principles of quantum mechanics to create encryption keys that are impossible to copy or intercept.
That's pretty amazing.
Yeah.
But I imagine there were still a lot of technical challenges to overcome before quantum computing becomes mainstream.
It's a very complex and expensive technology. Right now, only a handful of companies and research institutions have access to quantum computers.
So for most businesses, it's still a long way off.
But it's something to start thinking about now, especially for industries that are likely to be disrupted by quantum computing.
Okay, let's move on to a technology that's maybe a little bit more accessible. Extended reality, or XR?
XR is an umbrella term that encompasses virtual reality, augmented reality, and mixed reality. Basically, it's all about blending the real and digital worlds in new and exciting ways.
I think most people are familiar with VR at this point, but AR and mixed reality are maybe a little bit more mysterious.
VR is all about creating immersive experiences that make you feel like you're in a different world, while AR overlays digital information onto the real world. Mixed reality kind of combines the two, allowing you to interact with both real and digital objects in a shared space.
It's kind of hard to imagine what the applications of all this would be in the business world.
Well, we're already seeing companies using XR for training, for product design, for marketing, even for customer service.
Yeah.
Imagine using VR to train employees on how to operate complex machinery, or using AR to provide remote assistance to technicians in the field.
I've also seen examples of VR being used to create virtual showrooms where customers can explore products from the comfort of their own homes.
And AR can be used to create interactive marketing campaigns that really grab people's attention.
It's also a great way to visualize data to see patterns and trends in a more intuitive way.
And with the development of more affordable headsets and the increasing capabilities of smartphones, XR is becoming more accessible to businesses of all sizes.
So it's not just a futuristic fantasy anymore.
It's something that businesses can start experimenting with now to see how it can help them improve their operations, engage their customers, and create new opportunities.
Okay, now let's talk about a different kind of technology: agile leadership. It's not a specific piece of hardware or software, but it's becoming increasingly important in the modern business world.
Agile leadership is really a mindset, a way of thinking about work and managing teams that's based on flexibility, adaptability, and continuous improvement.
It's a way of being more responsive to change, which is crucial in today's fast-paced world.
Agile leadership is about empowering teams to make decisions, to experiment, to fail fast, and learn quickly. It's about breaking down silos, fostering collaboration, and creating a culture of transparency and trust.
I've seen companies using agile methodologies like Scrum and Kanban to manage projects, but it sounds like agile leadership goes beyond that.
It's about applying those principles to the entire organization, to how decisions are made, how people are managed, how work gets done.
So it's a more decentralized, less hierarchical approach to leadership.
Agile leaders are more like coaches than commanders. They provide guidance, support, and resources, but they trust their teams to figure out the best way to achieve their goals.
It sounds like a pretty significant shift from traditional leadership models.
It is, but it's a shift that's necessary in a world that's constantly changing. Companies that can embrace agility are the ones that are going to be able to adapt to new challenges and opportunities.
And finally, we can't talk about the future of work without talking about cybersecurity.
With so much of our work happening online, with so much sensitive data being stored in the cloud, cybersecurity is more important than ever.
And the threats are constantly evolving, becoming more sophisticated and harder to defend against.
Companies need to adopt a multi-layered approach to cybersecurity, combining technology, policies, and training to protect their systems and their data.
It's not just about firewalls and antivirus software anymore, right?
We're talking about things like multi-factor authentication, intrusion detection systems, data encryption, and regular security audits.
And just as importantly, companies need to educate their employees about cybersecurity best practices because human error is still one of the biggest vulnerabilities.
People need to be aware of things like phishing scams, social engineering attacks, and the importance of using strong passwords.
It's also important for companies to have a plan in place for what to do if a breach does occur.
Having a clear incident response plan can help minimize the damage and get things back to normal as quickly as possible.
It's a lot to think about, but cybersecurity is something that no business can afford to ignore.
It's an ongoing process, a constant race to stay ahead of the bad guys.
But it's essential for protecting your business, your customers, and your reputation.
Absolutely.
Wow, we've really covered a lot today, from AI to automation to XR to blockchain to quantum computing to cybersecurity and everything in between. It's clear that the world of work is changing rapidly, and there are a lot of exciting opportunities and challenges ahead.
It's a fascinating time to be alive.
This deep dive has given us a lot to think about. But before we wrap up, here's a final question for our listeners to ponder. Given all these rapid changes, what single skill or mindset do you believe will be most critical for individuals and organizations to cultivate in the coming years?
What will it take to not just survive, but to thrive in the future of work? It's a question worth thinking about.
Thanks for joining us on Everyday English Pod today. We encourage you to keep learning, keep exploring, and keep adapting to the ever-changing world around us.
See you next time.